Kevin Stimson here, and you're watching S&G TV, the place to be for the dreamer, go-getter, and action taker. Today's guest, we have Mark Lack. He's the author of the book Shorten the Gap. He's the founder of the Peak Performance Club, and he also sits as the sits on the board of advisors for the world's #1 mentorship and leadership nonprofit, the Leap Foundation. Mark, man, thanks for coming on. We definitely appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's my honor.
Absolutely, man. So let's dive into it. I'm super excited and pumped to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about the journey. What really kind of got you started on your success mindset and really tapping into and unleashing your inner greatness?
You know, it started for me, my story goes back and starts around, obviously when I was born, but for me, my real story started around 14. But to answer that question, for me, the light switch went off at around 18 or 19 years old. I don't remember specifically the exact day, but I was watching some Tony Robbins videos, and I had got heavily, addicted to watching everything I could of his. And for me, what it was the light switch went off, and I realized I had been dealt a good or great hand in life, right? It's all relative depending on what you're comparing it to. Mm-hmm. And I had been dealt a great hand in life, and I just, at that point, took it upon me to have a level of responsibility that I absolutely had no excuses as to why I couldn't go out and achieve anything I wanted in the world and have anything I wanted in the world and create the exact lifestyle that I wanted for myself. All I have to do is go out and become the person that I need to become to have all of those things.
Right.
And that led me down this crazy life journey that I'm on now of self-mastery and personal development and personal and professional growth in every area of my life. And, I think that when anyone in their life takes their responsibility upon themselves and realizes that there's no excuse as to why your business isn't earning the revenue you want. There's no excuse as to why your relationship with your kids or your family is not where you want it to be. There's no reason why you don't have enough leads coming in your door. There's no reason why you're not able to convert those leads. There's no reason why you don't have enough resources. What it is you haven't taken enough responsibility upon yourself to go out and acquire the knowledge in order to get those things. And for me, that's what it was, is around 18, 19 years old, I was, like most kids my age, I was entitled and all of these things, right, that most people around 18 and 19, I was a punk. And when that light switch went off in my head, everything in my life changed. All of a sudden, I started picking up books and reading them, and slowly from there, changing the way I'm starting to think, and then, of course, changing the way I behave. And that was sort of the switch for me.
Cool. So going back to 18, 19 years old, tell us, well, first off, what was that book, that one book that you can think of that kind of had you tap into like, wow, there's something else, deeper and profound that I could find within myself to, go out there and achieve something great. What was that book?
And this is a plug. I mean, anyone listening is probably like, I gotta go out and buy that book now. So you can thank me later, Darren Hardy. The book was by Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. Wow. And I've said that so many times because that really is one of the books that changed my life. It's just such a simple, easy to consume and understand and apply concept about how all of the small, tiny things you do in your life ultimately add up, and they're the biggest things that affect your life. Most people think it's that one big decision that's going to change your life. It's not. To give an example, if you knew that you would read one book and instantly have the intelligence to go out and achieve all the things you want, would you read that one book? Of course.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing. Go out and read hundreds of books. Just don't be lazy. Take the responsibility upon yourself to go out and acquire the knowledge to bridge the gap or shorten the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It's that simple. You do it if it was one book. Well, it's not one book. Yeah. It's multiple books compounded, and then ultimately by acquiring new knowledge and applying that knowledge in the right order at the right time, you'll be able to acquire the new things you want. If you ate one donut and got instantly fat, like overweight, obese, you wouldn't do it. Right. But instead, if you do it constantly every day, that compounding small, tiny thing will result in one big bad thing ultimately. And so it's the idea that, I'm shortening it up so that maybe you don't even have to buy the book now, that he just gives millions and millions of examples of, maybe not millions, he gives lots of examples of how you can take the compound effect and apply that through investing $10 a week If you're, you know, if you don't have a lot of money, $10 a week, and how that will compound and the interest, and boom, you know, in 60 years. And so it's the simple concept of compounding. So if I was going to say one book for me that I read at a young age where I realized, wow, it's that easy. And a funny thing is, it reminds me of a question that I was asked by a mentor of mine who's a billionaire. And it was a really rather strange question to be asked. And it was, would you shovel elephant poop every single day for an hour a day if in 10 years you could have anything you want? Would you shovel elephant poop every day for just 1 hour a day for 10 years straight? 1 hour a day. If at the end of those 10 years you could have any amount of money, anything you want. And it was funny because when he asked that question, of course, you know, I'm a teenager. I was like, hell yeah! Right. And so, because I associated reading books to shoveling poop at the time. Yeah. So the analogy to me was perfect. And it was funny because I was actually in a room of other people, and everybody in the room raised their hand as well. And these are all people like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And so I was like, oh, they would too. And then he simply said, just replace the shoveling of elephant poop with reading a book for an hour a day every day, and you'll do just that.
Ah, I like that.
And so that's the same concept of the compound effect. If you just say, and this is one of my things I came up with, an hour a day will pave the way, based on that question, is if you shovel elephant poop for an hour a day, then go out and read a book 1 hour a day. Because that's the funny thing, is it flips it on you. And you're like, oh, I would do that, but I won't do that. Well, go out and read those books.
Right.
Right? So,
absolutely.
You know, tying that in with the compound effect.
Absolutely. So, like, for me, man, reading books are huge. Like, I started back in 2000, I'd say probably like 2012, right? I was a junior, senior back in college. And for some reason, I kept coming across all these blogs and websites around wealth and money and all that kind of stuff. So I started becoming obsessed with that. And then, you know, I started reading like The Automatic Millionaire, and I started reading those kind of books. And then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I tapped into Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil and all these books. I'm just like, wow, this is just crazy. And the concept of, you know, putting something in a book, if you want to hide something, put it in a book, because many people aren't going to read it anyways. So that's that knowledge that's untapped. I just find that unbelievable, man. So what would you say to the people out there who don't really enjoy reading, but they know that in order for you to shorten the gap, if you will, right, that's kind of the way you kind of should pave?
Definitely. I mean, that's why I wanted to say the silly question that I had somebody ask me that I just asked your audience is, if you would shovel elephant poop, why won't you read a book? Because, I mean, honestly, I used to associate the same thing. I would, at that point, it was like, wow, like I actually would. That's a great comparison for me. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't like reading. Well, do you like making money? Right. Do you like feeling great every single day? Do you like having the best health and relationships you've ever had? Do you like winning every conversation or argument you've ever had? Like all of these things, right? It's like you should be saying yes, 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 yes. Like those are all things that you're going to get from reading books, because the only reason why you feel the way you do or don't have the things you don't have or any of those, right, is because of knowledge or a lack of application thereof. And so, you know, if you want to start associating pleasure to reading books, what you need to do is you need to realize all of the knowledge that's going to allow you to get all the things you want in life is simply hidden within, as you said, the pages of books, written from the greatest people ever. And so you can go out and hang out with the smartest people in the world if you just go out and get their books. Because it's crazy, and I'm going to reveal a big secret in the coaching information industry right now for all those people listening. And I paid $25,000 to figure this out, by the way. The guy that I paid $25,000 to is a good friend and mentor of mine. And I paid him $25,000 for just 10 hours of his time. And within those 10 hours, he taught me this lesson because he's in a similar space I am. Right. And what he taught me was, I'm going to share with you, so here's a $25,000 lesson, is people will pay the $25,000, as I did, to sit down with the guy, right? To sit down across the table with the guy, to pick his brain, to have him tell you the same, I was going to cuss, I don't know if I'm allowed to on your podcast. Of course. The same shit that's in the book that he wrote that you could have gotten for $10.99 on Amazon. Yeah. He told me, he said, I've made millions of dollars every year of my life since I got on this journey because people are willing to pay, well, you know, not millions, but cumulatively, the millions of dollars he's earning to speak on stage, to hold mastermind events, to do high-end one-on-one consulting for thousands of dollars an hour is relatively the same shit you'll get in his books.
Yeah.
For a fraction of the cost. But the people, especially at the high level, who can afford to pay that kind of money, they don't have the time, or so they say, to read all the books.
Yeah.
So they'll pay that. But guess what? You go out and read the books, you're going to get the knowledge anyways from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
When I paid $25,000, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you're telling me I just paid 20? But
yeah.
I ended up learning a bunch of great stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily learned from a book, or I would have learned from hundreds and hundreds of books cumulatively put together.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you learn is you start to pay for knowledge, answer to questions, versus, so I'll read a book for the answer to a question.
Yeah.
Right? You're not just reading a book to read it, but I'm reading a book because I know that I need the knowledge, or I need the answer to the question I have that's within this book.
Yeah.
And so, at a certain point, it's worth me paying $5-10 an hour to the best guy in the industry for me to get one answer or a couple answers. And so you can get that same concept. I might need it right now, so I'll pay $5,000 for an hour of the guy's time because I can get it like that, versus reading 50 books trying to find that one answer. And so just to let you know, though, same concept, right? But reading all those books is how he got to the point for you to pay him the $5,000 an hour. He's read all the books. He's just shortening the gap for you so you don't have to read all the books. He'll give it to you faster. But the point of this is, you want to start associating massive amounts of pleasure to the books. You want to hang out with all the smartest people in the world. Just go out and get their books. They're a fraction of the cost. A lot of them are free. Another little trick, just type in the person's book and then type in free PDF on Google. And most of the time you get almost 80-90% of the books you'd ever buy on Amazon for free. A lot of authors are going to hate me for that now, but
yeah, that's crazy, man.
Get their lawyers to go and take it down. But get it while you can.
Right. That's crazy. So, you're winning right now. You're an entrepreneur. You're doing your thing. You talked a little bit about having a billionaire as a mentor and all this kind of stuff, right? And so many people are probably thinking, like a lot of my audience is probably thinking like, wow, how did he get to this level? So what was that step-by-step kind of thing? But before we kind of talk into that, talk a little bit about you being at your all-time low, or talk a little about your failure point and how you kind of overcame that to kind of still give you that leverage that you have now and have you still where you are at this point.
And here's the thing about that, right, is the sob story or the sad story, so to speak, that everyone likes to hear because, the majority of the planet has some sort of baggage or painful story. And that's why so many people in the personal development space have that type of a thing where it's like, oh, Tony Robbins was chased out of the house with a kitchen knife by his mother. Okay, I'm not going to say anything about that. But as you start to get in the industry, you start to hear all these guys, you start to meet them, and you start to hear from all their friends and all. You see the person behind the stage, the person that no one gets to meet, and you get to hear all the stories that no one gets to hear from the people that worked with them for 15, 20 years. And so what's funny is you find out a lot of times these stories about their sad point in their life was never even real, or it was just really fabricated in order to make them feel like they're more resonant, relatable to the public audience, because people that want personal development are usually in a place of pain. And if you're in a place of pain, you want to build rapport and trust and credibility. Yeah. You want to have a connection to the individual. And if they have a sad story, sorry guys, I had, and this is not in any way, shape, or form to sound any way like I'm putting down people that have had sad things. I have had I'll use the word blessed, such a blessed life. Where or maybe I'm just I'm so Pollyanna, which is overly optimistic about life, that I just don't look for the things. I always find the silver lining, because at the end of the day, all of your biggest struggles, challenges, pains, fears, frustrations, all of those things at the end of the day have your biggest, brightest, and strongest gifts for opportunity for you to grow and become a better version of yourself. Oprah Winfrey says that it wasn't until she, for those of you who don't know, I'll just tie the story in, she was raped at age 13, physically, verbally, sexually. And so, if you just heard the story of a 13-year-old who was raped and how all these things happened to her, you probably wouldn't expect her to become Oprah Winfrey. Well, guess what it is? But Oprah says that it wasn't until she gave herself the gift of defining those stories of what happened to her to give her the strength to become who she is today. So in reality, her pain and struggle was the biggest gift in her life, because that's what allowed her to become stronger than she could have ever been and gotten to where she's at. Now, I, unfortunately or fortunately for lack of better words, I have not had a horrible, horrible struggle, challenge, pain, frustration, or adversity in my life. Yeah. I've had a relatively blessed life. So for me to tell a big struggle is difficult for me because, again, I haven't really had one, to be honest. What I have done is I've spent thousands of hours studying other people's struggles, other people's pain, and I've done the very best that I could possibly ever do, that anyone could ever do, to really disassociate from me and try to associate to them. Like, you watch a sad story, you cry, right? Well, I've cried enough hearing other people's sad stories and feeling that, like you would feel like watching a fake movie. I feel it when I'm watching these real stories, when I'm talking to somebody who face to face who's really been raped. Right? I
Yeah.
haven't been raped, but I've been able to help people that have been, because I've studied it.
Yeah.
I haven't lived it necessarily, but I've studied it, and I've studied how to solve it. Now, I would say in some way, shape, or form, the best person to help you solve it is someone who's been through it. But I've studied so many hours of how to bridge the gap or shorten the gap from the struggle and the pain to the abundance and the pleasure that can come from something like that once you give yourself that gift. Going off on a long tangent to answer your question, though, for me, some of my biggest lessons have been in business. At least I worked for a whole year unpaid with a really, really big hope and pie in the sky dream of this opportunity that I could make millions of dollars. And we really were part of this amazing organization that really could have changed the world for child protection. It didn't end up happening. Without getting too into that story, but it didn't end up happening. But I worked the whole year for free and had the opportunity to make a $500,000 commission, which was ultimately denied because once I brought the $10 million to the table to earn the $500,000 commission, the CEO was so impressed that I was able to bring the $10 million that he said, "I want you to bring me $20 million now." So he turned down the guys that brought they brought 10.
Right.
So I was like, "I just brought you $10 million and was going to get a $500,000 commission. You said no, you wanted to get $20 million now because all of a sudden, money makes people crazy once they get a lot of it." Not always, but in this case, it was, the stereotype is true. So that was probably like a big business lesson for me. Was I spent an entire year of my life, and I'm turning 25 this month, actually this Friday, and so that was a lot, like a whole year for me. Like, I'm turning 25, that was a lot of my life. If you're 70 a year, it's not as much. So for me, I learned a lot during that year of my life. So for me, in my business experience thus far, that's probably the thing biggest pain. It hurt me to have that whole year not make any money at all. But I got a lot of lessons and relationships that are now translating into financial gains. So again, it's the lessons of your life that ultimately are going to give you the biggest strength and the ability to get to a level that you maybe couldn't have been to without that pain, without that struggle, without that adversity, or without the lessons that are hidden within your biggest struggles.
Absolutely. Because I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, man, I truly believe that if certain things were not to happen to you, then you end up coming at a crossroads where it's like, I never want to experience that pain ever again. And I'm willing to really do whatever it takes to not let that kind of stuff happen again. So, for instance, this guy named Shamarko Thomas, he plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, strong safety, beast, man. And when he was a freshman, I believe, in college, both his parents passed away. And he kind of had like a tough upbringing, kind of getting into trouble and all that kind of stuff. He had younger siblings and all of that he had to look after, and he had to figure out like, well, my parents are gone, now I can get back in these streets and do whatever, or I can carry the torch, if you will, do epic things with my life and look out after my brothers and things of that nature. And now Troy Polamalu is gone; he just retired, and now Shamarko is taking on his position now. And I just think that's like truly amazing. You think about Michael Jordan getting cut, and now he's at where he is, right? And you think about the guy who is the host of America's Most Wanted. His son was murdered at a young age. Like, I think it was like 4 or 5 or something like that. He never wanted that thing to happen again. And I think a lot of people end up tapping into their inner greatness, or they're like, say someone was murdered or something like that, right? They end up creating certain laws and things of that nature, so this kind of stuff will never happen to somebody again. And they end up making it their life's work. They never knew that was the case, but in a way, it ends up being like a blessing in disguise, and you don't know it until that time actually comes. So that's
Definitely,
good.
brother.
Absolutely. So to me, man, striving grinders, striving grinders are all about, dreaming, go getting, and taking massive action. So let's talk about, striving a little bit. So what is your thoughts on, being average? We live in a society now where we could play that 80-20 rule on anything, right? So many people watching TV, so many people are going out at night and, just doing whatever. So many people are caught up in the 9 to 5 and they hate it. all of this kind of stuff. Everyone's doing this, but there's a significant few that's doing that, but their lives are just so much better. What is your thought on like average?
On people being average or just
Abs-
average in general?
yeah,
I I think that everyone's average in certain things.
yeah,
So I don't want to put average down. I'm average in a ton of things, and I'm a master at certain things. And so to put it down would be wrong. So I don't want to put down being average, which is probably different, right? You probably weren't expecting me to say that.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, everyone's average, and you can't be an expert in everything.
absolutely.
And so I'm average in a lot of things, but I'm also better than a lot of people in the whole world at certain things. And so, I think that everybody needs to master one thing in their life,
Even if that's just being a great mom or a great dad, master it. And so, for me, with my age and what I'm doing right now, I want to master me, myself, and become the very best version of myself I can. Self mastery, right?
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier. My primary focus right now is mastering myself. And from an earlier conversation we had, we just briefly touched base on purpose and how my purpose in life is a combination of just two words: growth and contribution. And so for me, I want to master those two things: growth and contribution. And the way that I do that and live my highest purpose is, in order for me to do that, I can't be average, right? I have to master myself to grow and become the best version of myself so that I can serve and contribute to others in a larger way. And another word for serving and contributing could be value exchange and giving value. And for those listening right now, if you want to increase your income, it's a direct reflection of your income is a direct reflection of your quantity, quality, and consistency of the value that you render to an individual or a business. So the funny thing about all this, and I'm making a point, is that by mastering myself, becoming the best version of myself possible, and growing consistently, then allowing me to serve and contribute to others more, which is another way of me saying I get to add value to an individual's life or businesses, on the quantity, quality, and consistency of which the reflection and byproduct of is an increase in my income. So I double my income consistently. Could be in a month, could be a quarter, could be in a year. I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling my income consistently, and that's because of that system, right? It asks me about average. It's about mastering you. And if you master you, everything else will take care of itself, right? And so if you're going to master anything in this world, master yourself. Master you, and then as a result, everything else takes care of itself. You will get the promotion. You will make more money. You will have better relationships. Your health will get better. Your emotional mindset and your quality of life on a day-to-day basis will get better, only if you first focus on you. And you can look in the mirror and you can say, if I'm going to master anything in this life, it's myself. And at that point, you realize you're accepting the responsibility that you have to work on every area of your life. No, I don't care. You have to work on every area of your life. I have to work on every area of my life. And I work on it consistently. Daily, weekly, monthly, annually. I work on increasing every area of my life. And that's why, at 25, turning 20, 25, let's say I'm 25, and that's not till Friday, I'm in $1 million condo on the beach, not to impress you, I'm saying that, but to impress upon you the importance of mastering yourself. You literally can have anything you want in your life. You can have anything you want in your life if you focus on mastering yourself. So that's what I think about average.
Absolutely, man. Great answer. I think that was probably one of the best answers I've heard around, topics on being average. So, what would be your, I guess, first action, if you will, for somebody to master one part of their life? What would you tell them to do right now to go ahead and do that?
to master themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question. I would ask, I guess I would request that if somebody was going to take the first step to mastering themselves, they write down the areas of their life they want to improve. They write down their highest values, and then they write down their biggest purpose in life. And I guarantee that whatever you write down as your purpose in life, if you struggle to figure out what your purpose in life is, at the core nucleus of it, it's going to be growth and contribution. I want to make more money. I want to help my family. Oh, you're just saying growth and contribution in different ways.
Yeah.
Or you're using a synonym for growth and contribution, or you're using a different context, which will ultimately, if I peel the layers of an onion back, right, metaphorically speaking, the center of it would be growth and contribution. Somebody wrote like a 7-paragraph thing about their purpose, and I just broke it down, and I was like, 2 words, growth and contribution. They were like, I highlighted everything that was growth and everything that was and it was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, so everyone's purpose should be to just grow and contribute to the highest level possible. Become your very best self, meaning you have to constantly grow in every area of your life, and that'll allow you to serve and contribute to people at a higher level. But if you wanted to focus on the first thing you needed to do to master yourself, identify your purpose. Because otherwise, what are you doing here? Why are you waking up? What are you doing? What anything you're doing, what are you doing it for? Well, your purpose, ultimately, hopefully. So identify your purpose, identify your highest values. Also, write down the things that you want to work on most in your life. And then it could be if you want to make more money, because then you can have more security for your family and for yourself. Great. Focus on that, and then realize the only reason why you don't have the income you want is because you're not adding enough quantity, quality, or consistency to the value you're rendering to an individual or to a business. And so in order to do that, in order to add more value, usually it's you need to apply more knowledge, or you need to, that you already have, or you have a lack of knowledge, therefore you can't even apply the knowledge you need to add the value. So, back there, if you want to increase your income, which I know 99, probably 100% of people listening want to make more money here. Raise your hand, I do, right? Focus on that, right? We all
Right.
do. For different reasons. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that I would focus on if you want to master yourself. What do you want to work on? What are your highest values? And what's your purpose in life, which the foundation of which should be built upon 2 words, growth and contribution. And as a result of that, once you know why you're here on this planet, what's your purpose, what your highest values are, to make sure that all your actions and your goals are in alignment with your highest values, and then you know what the things you want to work on most are, that's your starting point. And then what I would recommend is, once you know, I want to work on my health, I want to work on my relationships, I want to work on my communication skills, I want to make more money so I can give my family and myself a better lifestyle and better future. Great. Those are all wonderful things, and I honor you for wanting to work on those and having the putting your ego aside to be able to say, I can work on these. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I can work on these, and I know I can get better, and I'm going to. Every day I'm going to spend a little bit of time, whether I'm educating myself or whether I'm acting upon it, right? Educate, act. You should be doing one or the other each day. Maybe one day you're learning about how to eat better and work out better, and the next day you're applying it. So simple concept.
Yeah.
But once you've identified those areas, go out and figure out the people, the knowledge, the resources, and the game plan that you're going to implement into your life, the action steps, right, that are going to allow you to actually start making those improvements. So that's where I'd start.
Amazing, man. So the next kind of group of questions, we're going to come around like the grind part. So talk to us a little bit about like what your typical day is like. 24-year-old Mark, about to be 25. He's living in a $1 million condo. He's an entrepreneur. He's doing all these great things, in his life. What is your typical day like?
My typical day involves me waking up with the question in mind of what I'm most grateful for. I actually have something really cool called the 5-minute journal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, another plug, I'm not going to make any money on that. I feel like every time I say something, because I've said some of the same things like literally hundreds of times in interviews, and I'm always laughing because I'm like, I wonder how many sales have been generated because I said this guy's book or this guy's thing. And I'm happy to do it because it's changed my life, and I don't need to, go for it. I want everyone's life to be better, so go get this if you want it. Or just create it yourself if you don't have the $20 that you want to invest in it. But it's called the 5-minute journal, and I wake up every day and I invest 5 minutes, relatively, right? That's what the name of the book is. I invest 5 minutes of my time, and I just open the book up. It's very simple, and I just look at it, and it says, like, what is the top 3 things you're grateful for today? So, boom, I wake up, and literally, the first 20 minutes, neuroscience research on the brain has proven that in the first 20 minutes after waking up, your subconscious mind, which is your most powerful part of your brain, your subconscious brain or your unconscious mind, which processes for every one conscious thought, your unconscious brain is processing 1 million thoughts. So it's really important to condition your unconscious or subconscious mind with the thought patterns and the belief patterns that you want to have about yourself in order to get you to that next level, right? It's going to be very difficult for you to make $1 million a year if you have the mindset of somebody who only can make 50 grand or 100 grand. Meaning internally you don't really believe that you are a millionaire.
Right.
It's going to be very difficult for you to earn $1 million if you don't ever see yourself being a millionaire. So beliefs, right? Beliefs and thought patterns and actions. So I wake up every day and I condition myself with the thought patterns I want to have, the belief patterns, and I do that because people might be wondering, well, how does he do that, right? I want to do that. It's so simple. You just condition yourself, but you got to do it consistently, the compound effect. Compound this every single day, and I guarantee after a few weeks, a few months, a few years, right? Crazy. You're gonna be living those years anyways, hopefully. You might as well take 30 seconds a day to do this.
Yeah.
That's the funniest concept. Years? Yeah, are you going to live that long anyways? You don't have 30 seconds a day, 30 minutes a day to do it? So, yes, I wake up every day. I condition myself with the thought patterns and belief patterns that I want to have about or I need to have about myself to make me feel good, to make me take the right actions, to make sure that when I go down on the roller coaster of life as an entrepreneur, I can get back up. And so, one of the ways you do that is you write down a bunch of I am affirmations. Oh, it sounds cliche and you've heard it before, but it's really powerful and impactful because imagine, I always give people the derivative or the opposite of it. I always say, imagine if you woke up every day and you read a piece of paper and it said, I am a piece of shit. I am stupid. I am ugly.
Right.
No one loves me. You would wake up, probably start your day off horrible. So
Yeah.
it's the exact same opposite. People think it's funny to start doing these things, but in reality, when I give you the opposite version, people are like, oh yeah, that would suck. Well, guess what? It's actually the opposite when you do it the right way. It's phenomenal when you wake up and you go, I am amazing,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to have the best day ever because I'm going to make it so. I'm going to focus on the highest yielding income and impact activities today. What are those? Oh, and spend a lot of your, right? It's like, I am a phenomenal speaker. Tomorrow I'm going and speaking at my old college that I graduated from to my whole senior marketing class. That's going to be hilarious. That's going to be a blast. So
Nice.
I'll make sure that I read my sheet tomorrow. Right? I am a great speaker. I am more than enough. I am loved by many people because the deepest fears of all people at the root is fear of not being enough or fear of not being worthy of love.
Yeah.
And so, I am worthy of love. I am good enough. I am destined for greatness. All of these things I condition and believe. Boom, boom, boom. My health is in perfect condition and I work towards it daily. Money is simply and easily manifested and attracted into my life in unknown ways. Right? All these different things I say, you can create them. You can go look them up online. There's no secret sauce, right? Of course, there's really powerful ones, but just write down some great affirmations that you want to condition your brain with, because a lot of the times you're letting external things unconsciously just slip in through your mind, and most people condition themselves with horrible things, and that's why they have a mediocre or average life. And so, I wake up every day, I condition myself with the thought patterns and belief patterns, I focus on what I'm grateful for, I focus on what's going to make me the most money for the day, or what's the activities that are going to yield the largest ROI of energy and time and money for me. I focus on getting my team focused in and laser focused on what are the highest yielding income and impact activities for the day, making sure I focus on what my goals are for myself, personally and professionally. Focus on those, but don't just focus on them, emotionalize them. Most people look at their goals. That doesn't do much. That only is a tiny little portion of it. The biggest portion of looking at your goal is solely for this, to sit there and emotionalize and internalize the feeling of already having accomplished it.
Yep.
When you focus on your goal of making that $1 million and then feeling what it would feel like if you had $1 million in your bank account and what you would do with it. Why do you really want it? And you take it to that next level, that's the difference. Then you go throughout your whole day rocking and rolling because you're laser focused. And you didn't just look at it and go, $1 million and better health. No, that's worthless. That's probably why you've written it down and didn't do anything with it before. And you go, oh, there's a bunch of crock pot, Mark. I'm going to write my goals and look at it. Yeah, guess what? You're doing it wrong. Right? You haven't been doing it the right way. So, that's part of how I start my day off. I meditate for a little bit, not always, I'll be honest. Maybe I try to do it 5 times a day, even if it's only for 10 seconds, because the habit is more important than the effort. And so that's relatively how I start my day off. Sometimes I have coffee, sometimes I have a caffeine pill, sometimes I juice a bunch of vegetables, way too much usually, and get my mind right. But everyone starts their day off a little bit different. You can read The Miracle Morning, which is one of my friend's books, and it's great. Talks about different little techniques and strategies for how to start your day off right. But one of the most important things that you can take away for how to start your morning off, because that's more important than how I start mine off, is start yours off by getting yourself in the mindset or the attitude of gratitude, so to speak, where you focus, what am I most grateful for right now and how does that make me feel? Just doing that and starting your day off in a state of gratitude rather than a state of expectation like most people do, right? Most people walk around, they wake up, they have unconscious expectations for how their day is supposed to be, and if one little thing interferes with them, someone cuts them off on the way to traffic, their day could be ruined, right? They wake up to a bad text message, a bad social media post, a bad thing in the news, and their whole day is ruined. Wake up and control your day. How do you want to feel, right? And the easiest way to do that is to be grateful, map out what you're going to do to better your life.
Love it, man. Are you familiar with Danielle Laporte?
Why do I know that? I know the name.
Creator of the Desire Map.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what she really talks about. I think that's what her whole practice is about, is goal setting around how does it really make you feel. You can say, yeah, I want to be a millionaire, yeah, I want to have this mansion, or yeah, I want to have this great body. But just writing that goal down and not having any kind of emotional connection to it, that's not really going to do anything for you. It's about circling back, closing your eyes and thinking about how is this really going to make me feel, and then that's going to keep you determined. That's going to keep you driven pretty much at all times. So that's great, man. So let's talk a little bit about the like what are some of the characteristics. I think everything you just pretty much said anyways are kind of the characteristics that set you apart from everyone else your age or most of the people around you. But talk to us a little bit about that. What are some of those differentiating things that you have in place?
Um, One of the things that I've gotten extremely good at in my life from studying, by the way, so that everyone knows that you can have this too, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I love this thing about you. Don't love anything about me. You love parts of yourself that you want to improve. So you can get all these. You can have anything you want again if you just study. I used to hate studying, by the way. I got horrible grades in school, so that's why it's hilarious that I'm going to go back and speak to my whole school. But one of the things that separates me is I've just been relentless about studying patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And patterns is a term used in this technology, right? This principle called neuro-linguistic programming, and it's really powerful for influencing and persuading people. But pattern recognition is something that I've gotten really good at. And what I mean by pattern recognition is when you say, Mark, how do you properly set and achieve a goal? Well, that's a pattern. I'm going to tell you like a sequential process, formula, science, or as I would call it right now, pattern. Meaning, if this, then that. Right? If this happens, then this will be the result. Or if this happens, these are the variable results that could happen. Right? And the more that you realize, if this happens, then this happens. Like, for example, if you and I were at a bar with a bunch of drunk people and we started pushing people, if this, then we could probably guess what the actual result of then would be, right?
Right.
If you and I did this, then there's a good probability that these will happen. Well, guess what? If you read a bunch of books on how to get better at selling and add value and better your life, then there's a very good variable that all of those things are going to happen. You're going to be able to sell more. You're going to be able to increase your business profit. You're going to be able to better your marketing, better your health, better your relationships, better whatever, right? So if this, then that, pattern recognition. If someone's been, and I'm going deep again, I won't go that deep actually. Nobody even knows what I'm talking about now. If something horrible in your life has happened, right, then there's only a couple variables. Like if a 13-year-old was sexually, verbally, and physically abused, then you probably have a guess of where that path would be. But guess what? Oprah Winfrey turned out. So what is the pattern that if this, then Oprah? What the hell is that? Right? So if this, then that? No. I would not say if this, then that. I would say if this, then that. So why if this, then that? And people are probably saying, wait, so if you missed the conversation, right? So if sexual, verbal, and physical abuse happens, then you probably guess this would happen. But how did Oprah Winfrey come out? So I want to know the difference between why is this the normal pattern, and then why is Oprah? Why did she come out of that? So what is that pattern? What did Oprah do? What pattern did she model that allowed her to be different? And so that question drives me insane. I need to know how this typical thing happened, but the result was different than what we would expect. So how does, and this is what I'm saying, where I haven't had much of a difficult, struggle, tough, whatever. I haven't had a very painful upbringing.
Yeah.
But I've studied a lot of it because I want to be able to help others or show others or support others how they can improve their life. Not based on how necessarily I did it, but ways that I've studied other people and how they were able to do it. And with that advice and you trying it or applying it, maybe you can get the same results, right? That's why I love studying patterns. You don't have to necessarily experience it, right? A smart person learns from his own experience. A genius learns from other people's experience. So I want to be the genius. I want to learn from as many people's experiences as possible, right? Don't reinvent the wheel, copy genius. These are just silly sayings, but they actually mean something when you apply them. And so for me, pattern recognition is something that makes me really different. Is I am so relentlessly dedicated and committed to finding out all of the pattern recognitions. So if this happens, then this happens. So how do I, first, how does that affect my life, right? If I wake up tired, then this is how my day will be. So if I wake up tired, then how can I change the pattern so that I can skyrocket myself to not have the day be tired or lazy? If I wake up and it's cloudy out like it was today, then I'm going to have a lazy, lousy day. I'm going to be tired and mopey because environment affects how you feel and all these things, right? So it's like, if I got cut off from work, then this will be the... So how can I change all these patterns? If you start a business, these are probably going to be all the things you struggle with. So if you start a business, I know that you're going to need to focus on all these things first. If you're lacking the ability to create lead generation and marketing in your business, then these are probably some of the problems as to the reason why you're lacking that. And so we can fix that by reverse engineering it. So pattern recognition is something that comes from massive amounts of studying. And so that's why I'm so committed to learning as many different patterns as I possibly can. Like, I haven't gone out and studied the pattern recognition for financial banking and the stock exchange and all of these different things for, making money in other realms that I'm currently not focused and committed to. I haven't studied the pattern recognition there. But if you were to talk to, for example, I just had the Grand Prix. I live in Long Beach, California, and I just had the Grand Prix here, all the races. Those guys are the best drivers I've ever seen in my life. And they have pattern recognition about driving. If you ask them, like, these guys are drifting and they're so close to almost hitting each other, I'm just waiting for them the car to explode or crash, and they never would. They would get so close, they never would. So these guys have extraordinary pattern recognition that when they're about to slide into the guy, calmly and casually, they turn the steering wheel a little bit, pull the e-brake here, tap it. They just know. They don't have to think about it. Navy SEALs, right? Pattern recognition. They're ingrained it into their brain. So I want pattern recognition. When I meet somebody and they had a lousy day just based on the few presuppositions of what they've spoken to me, I'll be able to go, oh, okay. So that's what they said. So then it's probably this would happen. I can change them by saying a couple things. So pattern recognition has come from lots and lots and lots of studying. But at the end of the day, I can tell you the reason why you're fat is a direct reflection of the patterns you've been modeling. Yeah. The reason why your relationship sucks or did suck, or you've had guys treat you bad, or you've had a couple bad girls, whatever it is, right? The reason why you succeeded or didn't succeed, the reason why you've made lots of money and you're unfulfilled, the reason why you got on a super spiritual path, and whatever, right? Okay, he did that, or she did that, so this is probably the result. There's only so many variables that would equal a certain pattern, and your ability to study and recognize patterns is phenomenal because it allows you to influence people, right? So if this, then that. If I say this to you, there's a very good chance that you'll respond this way. And if I know that I can control the variables, and if I know that this happened, this will happen, guess what? It's like winning the gambling casino at the casino in Vegas, right? If I know that I do this, I know this will be the result. Guess who always wins? Right. So that's something that makes me extremely different. Is I spend so much time studying the patterns because essentially it's like counting cards, but in life. If I can recognize all the patterns and match them up, I can control or influence the persuasion, the outcome, a lot better than anyone else around me. I can either make a very accurate hypothesis of how I think the outcome will be, or I can control the outcome in the direction that I want it to be. And guess what? The house casino always wins. And so if you can become that, and you can even just be ahead of everybody by just 2%, like the casino does, you're ahead of everybody. And so for me, pattern recognition is probably one of my biggest things, because at the end of the day, everything is patterns. If I'm going to get anything different in my life, it's changing my current patterns, my thought patterns, my belief patterns, my behavior patterns, my relationship patterns, my dietary patterns, all the patterns. If I change my patterns, I change my results. So that's my biggest thing right now, is just mastering pattern recognition so I can come into somebody's life, recognize the patterns, and help them change.
Love it, man. That's dope. I love it. I think that's tons of value add for our audience. Tons of great advice, man. I think you killed it. So we're wrapping up right now with the interview. So this is a question that we ask all of our guests. What does strive and grind mean to you? Strive
and grind. When I hear it, it just makes me think like, I'm waking up for the day and I'm about to go and get my grind on. That's what I think when I hear it.
Love it.
I gotta get me one of them hats too.
Yeah,
straight strive and grind all day. I'll be repping it for you.
We have snapbacks, we have beanies, like we have all the hats you can imagine. So.
I love it. Well, yes, I'll definitely rock it for you.
We'll send one out your way for sure.
All right, brother. Yeah, I mean, strive and grind to me is just simply waking up, getting on your grind, and the way that you're going to do that is by going out and becoming your best self. If you're going to wake up, you're going to strive and grind. You're going to go out, you're going to become your best self. And then by becoming your best self, you're going to go out and you're going to grind. And by grinding, you're going to get better results, and you're going to get the things that you ultimately want in your life, right? You're going to grind to make more money because you want better things. Strive and grind, baby. Wake up, become your best self, and go out and get the life that you want and you deserve.
Love it, man. That's the mantra. You got to use it every day. You got to use it, man. So what can we expect next from you?
Next from me, I'm doing... Everyone always says, what do you want to do with your life, or what do you want more of, or what are your biggest problems? For me, I'm doing what I love, man. I think I just had a conversation with one of my clients before this, and we were talking about how so many people create a plan for their career, a plan for their business, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't create a plan for their life. And so I was talking about this with my client, and I was saying, I know billionaires, they got visions and plans, and they got so much money, but they created a business plan, and as a result of creating the business plan and executing it perfectly, they left their life behind.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm living the life that I want, and I'm creating my business plan around that. And I think it's the opposite of what most people do. So what you can expect next from me is a more passionate, a more empathetic, understanding, caring, loving person, but also more successful as a result. And so I hope that if I ever meet anyone listening, on Strive and Grind right now, that when you meet me, you'll meet the person you're talking to now, but you'll meet a better version of me. That's all I can say, is that what's expected next from me is, if I'm Mark 1.0 right now, then you're going to meet Mark 2.0, and then 3.0, and then 4.0.
Love it.
So just keep doing better and better and better in every area of my life. That's all I can say, brother. I meet you next. I want every area of your life to be a little bit better than it was the last time I saw you.
Done deal,
And that's the same thing you can expect from me, and hold me accountable and responsible to it.
Absolutely.
Because every day I'm striving and I'm grinding.
Yes, sir. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. So where can we find out more about you online?
You can find out more about me at a couple of different places. I'll name the ones that I'm most active on, so if anybody reaches out. So I just rebranded my company. We're at the tail end of it now, so hopefully when this airs, if you go to thepeakperformanceclub.com, that's thepeakperformanceclub.com, hopefully by then it'll redirect you to my new rebranded company and site, which is called shortenthegap.com. So go to either one of those. And then at the other, and you can reach out to a contact page on there, and there's a bunch of free gifts on the site as well. So by all means, collect those gifts and reach out and contact me. I'm very active, and my team will always forward me emails that somebody specifically, mentions my name in. Otherwise, follow me on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. I've got a fan page and a friend page. Feel free to add me on either one. It's just facebook.com/Mark Lack. That's MarkLack, and then either 949 or 777. And that'll get you my fan page or my friend page. Reach out and let's stay in touch.
Love it, man. So we're going to add all the resources and everything we talked about in our show notes. Mark, I want to thank you, man, for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. You added tons of value to our audience. Tons of action items for them to start taking action on already. So I'm excited to see what their results are going to be. If you like this interview, please subscribe. And until next time, keep striving, keep grinding. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, brother, and thank everybody for listening. I appreciate your time.
Almost forgot. It's crazy. So I twisted Mark's arm, and he's all about giving value. He's all about giving value. So he's going to be giving out his book, Shorten the Gap, for free to you guys. So we're super excited about that.
Definitely, yeah.
I know we talked for a second, and he got me to cave in, and he realized, his audience definitely would love to get access to a collection of a ton of the best books that I've studied and basically distilled down into one book. And so, my exchange in value to you guys from your man here is going to be, my best-selling book, which you can get on Amazon, but you guys are all going to have it for free. So I'm sure he'll put it somewhere in the show notes page, and you guys will get instant access to it for free. So I hope you enjoy it.
Strive and grind, baby.
Strive and grind.